All right, everybody. It is 2:03, so we like to get started right on time. So thank you, everyone, for joining. I'm super excited to talk to Charles Scott. It's going to be great. Charles is the global corporate sustainability lead at Unity, one of the world's largest video game engines. You've probably heard of Pokemon Go. So they're the engine that powers that, among many, many other things. Charles, I'm excited to talk to you. I think we're going to talk about a lot of work. We'll obviously do an overview of Unity in a moment, but I actually want to start with something very specific, which is the VPPA agreement that you are a part of. I know a lot of technology companies are always searching for what their sustainability program should be pillared on, what they should focus on, what the impact should be on the technology industry broadly, but from kind of your unique perspective. And this VPPA program you signed was very unique, and I know it's something you worked really hard on. So maybe give the context around how that process started and why you thought what BPPA is, but why you thought it'd be something unique and important for Unity to be a part of.
Yeah, absolutely. So, as part of Unity's sustainability program, it's always been our goal to achieve 100% renewable electricity for our operations. So that was part of the strategy, but we've always been purchasing spot renewable energy credits, which still counts as renewable energy, but I was always thinking like, what can we do more than just purchase some spot RECs? So I got to hear about virtual power purchase agreement, which is essentially you're investing in an actual facility to build renewable energy so that you can add renewable energy back to the grid. So I think from impact perspective, it adds a lot more social values, and also you're actually adding value to the grid itself because you are producing renewable electricity in real communities. So that really got me started thinking like, how do we participate? But one of the biggest barriers was just the sheer amount of budgets that's needed to build energy facility, because Unity is not a small company, but we're also not at a size of a hyperscalers like Google and Microsoft. So in terms of our sustainability budget, it's we're working with a lot smaller budget. And usually, VPPA is done by much larger companies. So we happened to be working with Watershed at the time, and we were just brainstorming, and we realized that if we joined forces with other companies who wants to also work in this area but can't because of limited budget for similar reasons, then we can actually make something happen. So we decided to go take on that path. And of course, there were some internal barriers in terms of persuading. Usually, high growth companies like ours don't really look into too far in terms of like financial planning. So this is looking at 5 year. So the internal buy-in definitely had to happen. But when we did the financial analysis, we realized that energy prices actually for RECs tend to be going up. So it is a good investment because it's a fixed price. So as a market instrument, it does add value for us in terms of risk management because we'll be buying spot RECs anyway as part of our sustainability program. And it turned out to work out really well. So it's one of the proud projects that I'm always happy to share. So the facilities in the state of Michigan, and it happens to be one of the dirtiest grids in the US. And they recently set carbon neutral goals. So we're really proud that we're happy to add some renewable energy to the state of Michigan and also create jobs there.
Yeah. Let me ask a couple questions there. So, starting with kind of making that financial case. So, you guys had been buying renewable energy credits for a few years. You were buying that so that I imagine you could put out into the market to say your abated scope two emissions are zero
Mhm.
after you purchase these RECs. Is that right? So, that was kind of the
Yeah.
case for you already doing this. And you said, well, RECs are volatile, so it's hard to predict exactly how much we'll spend in the next 5 years. But through this financial engineering mechanism, we can basically guarantee that our price for a rec will be X for the next 5 years. And so you went to your CFO and said, one is volatile, one is steady. Can we make this commitment? Is that how it went?
Yeah, exactly. It kind of works like investing in stocks, I suppose, because Rex prices it changes all the time. But if you look at the macro trend, you can kind of see like is does this add value to your investment or not?
Mhm.
So even though I think our, if I remember correctly, our initial entry point of the price was slightly higher, but over the years, it catches up pretty quickly.
Yeah. Well, let me ask a kind of maybe naive question. But as you thought about why you needed Rex to begin with and why it was important to your program to be able to show this scope to abatement instead of investing in energy reduction elsewhere, or just anything else, because you can put money anywhere you want. Well, you guys decided that renewable energy credits and this VPPA program is important to you. How did you think about prioritization and why that is where you wanted to put your money?
Yeah, I think it also comes from our operating model. So Unity doesn't really own data centers or office buildings that we operate in. So we're limited in terms of what we can do to the physical facilities that we operate in, which are scope one and two emissions. And when we think about our scope two emissions, then we need to think of our energy consumption because we're focused on reducing our emissions overall. And we also have a science-based target initiative, near-term targets set very recently. And part of that includes zeroing out scope two emissions. So in terms of strategies, we can do RECs, VPPAs, but because we can't really build actual physical solar facilities to the building that we operate in. So I think it is a smart market instrument we can tap into in terms of zeroing out our emissions.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Tell me about the conversations internally when you proposed this. What type of person was most in favor? Was like, yeah, this is an obviously good idea. We should do this. And then from anyone who's opposed or who had further questions or debated, what was sort of the line of their questioning? Who pushed back and said, well, do we really need to do this and why?
I think initially everybody pushed back. I think first of all, VPPA is not an
You
easy
mean you
concept.
didn't, sustainability didn't show up with an idea and everyone patted you on the back and said, here's the blank check? That's not how it
I'm
worked?
sure every sustainability professional will agree with this, but you kind of have to just wear many hats. But one of the largest hats is you have to be able to convince others. And like, what's in it for me to do this? So I think just explaining what VPPA truly means from both impact and financial point of view. So I had to convince our workplace experience team because the budget actually comes from their org. Because they're the ones paying for energy bill, but because we have this sustainability program, they have to now also offset whatever energy that we consume that it is under their budget as well. So that was the biggest thing. And then as it goes up to the CFO org, then they ask more about financial stuff. But luckily, we did a lot of deep analysis on that front. So there weren't too many questions towards the end. But I think the initial just engagement on understanding what VPPA actually is and why do we need it as opposed to spot rec purchases, I think that was the biggest hurdles to overcome.
Last question on VPPAs, but if you were to advise another company, for whom do you think VPPAs would be the right thing to pursue? And under what circumstances are RECs perfectly fine and they don't need the VPPA instrument?
I mean, I think it really depends on the company's strategy. Rex is a totally fine mechanism. SBTI recognizes it, and it is a valid way to offset your scope 2 emissions for electricity. But at the same time, if you're an organization that's looking to go a step further than just purchasing spot Rex, when you think about the co-benefits, what can it do to the social aspect of it? And if you want to actually have tangible values by creating actual renewable energy facility, then I think that's something that you can pursue. And I know that there's a handful of companies that you can partner with. For Unity, I mean, it's challenging because we're not energy experts, so we're not in any place to actually draft the contract so that the risk is managed really well. But at the same time, if you find the right partner to work with, it's not as difficult as it seems. So I think it's just a matter of really getting tight on your strategy and also finding the right partner to work with and a handful of other companies to join you.
Amazing. Just a reminder for folks, the chat is open, the Q&A is open, so you can feel free to drop things in there throughout the entire conversation. Rachel, I want to now go backwards perhaps and have you just set up what Unity is and where the sustainability program was when you joined a few years ago. Where did you take it from, and what were the first few things that you did once you really understood what Unity is and what its goals are to set up the Unity sustainability program?
Yeah, so Unity is a real-time 3D engine company, and we also have Grow side of the business, which is monetizing through digital advertisement. So we have business in both places, and I've been at Unity for a little over 4 years now. So really joined when sustainability program was just kickstarting. And when I first joined the company, we were at a stage where we had a lot of public commitments without really understanding what that means for Unity. So it was my responsibility to really dissect it and also be able to put strategy that is executable. So now we work under this vision.
I'm
Unity.
sorry to interrupt, but who made those commitments? Like, was it a ambitious CEO? Was there somebody in your role before you? Was it someone
Yeah, it
super
was the
junior who was like, I
old
don't know, I'm signing up for everything?
C-suite. It
Okay.
was the old C-suite. So when the company IPO'd, I think they were a lot of eagerness to do
Hmm.
good on top
Hmm.
of business as a public company. So there were a lot of bold visions that was written in the internal documents. But
Hmm.
because sustainability team was so new and Unity hasn't really been doing corporate sustainability work, to actually execute on those visions, it was like, okay, let's take a step back and look at what this really means because there are a lot of greenwashing risks and we don't want to claim what we're not actually doing. And yeah, as a public company, it's a huge risk. So I need to kind of just dial back a little bit to understand what these really means, what we can do, and what we will be more forward looking. Um, so that we have this vision, Unity leads and empowers our ecosystem to create a more sustainable future. And under this vision, we have three pillars. One is responsible business practices. The second is corporate sustainability risk management. And the third is reporting and stakeholder engagement. And every work belongs to either one of these pillars. And I think
Hmm.
recently corporate sustainability risk management has risen a little bit, mainly driven by a lot of new regulatory requirements. And also, what I'm seeing at Unity is that customer demands on sustainability has been intensifying for us, especially when it comes to large industry customers that we work with. So it's no longer just regulatory requirement or just tick the box exercise in order for us to stay competitive in the business, you need to run a responsible business. So I think along the lines of those three pillars, we do a lot of partnerships with a couple of organizations. One is Playing for the Planet, which focuses a lot on decarbonizing the gaming industry. Then Business Council on Climate Change, which is BC3. It's mostly for the companies based in the Bay Area, but I think there's more than that. So every company who has focus on climate change comes together and try to solve the problems that we have. And through those, we've published a bunch of reports to help out small gaming studios because those are our main customers for the game engine. And they don't usually have small sustainability team. They only have small sustainability
Mhm.
team or none, but they want to do something for climate as well. So we want to
Yeah.
help them, support them, and give means to kickstart the sustainability program.
Those three pillars you mentioned, Charles, I think it was responsible business, corporate sustainability function, and reporting. Is that right? Responsible business practices, corporate sustainability. Can you give a few examples of, if those are the strategies, what are the tactics that support each of those three pillars? Give me, one or two examples that underlie each of those three pillars.
Yeah, responsible business practices mainly concerns how can we influence the ecosystem that Unity is in. And then so we have partnerships, so try to author some kind of white paper that can help the gaming studios. Or for example, we co co-designed the carbon calculator for the gaming studios. A lot of the game studios are very small, and indie game studios could be like a team of 10 or 20. So they don't have sustainability team, but they want to understand like what their carbon footprint is, and so that what you can't measure, like what you can't reduce. So I think giving them means to really start on their sustainability journey had a lot of meaning to us. And then another is we have a program called Unity for Humanity, which has one of the pillars is sustainability. So we try to financially support through our grant um, the creators who has focused on sustainability. So those are the two for responsible businesses. And also we do voluntary carbon offsets aside from our decarbonization strategy every year. So we do invest some money on our carbon offset programs. And then under the corporate sustainability risk management, it's more about managing the regulatory space and also customer expectations. So now we have a system of tracking annualized revenues that are tied to sustainability. And the general trend, it like increases and decreases from time to time, is that it is meaningful amount of revenues. So that really just strengthens that argument that as a public company that does business, if we want to remain competitive in this space, we also have to do well in sustainability. And also, we run an ESG steering committee internally to get our sustainability strategy tightened across the business because a lot of the times sustainability team is small, but at the same time we don't have visibility into every company strategy. So it's a good avenue to really get together and discuss what sustainability can impact other across the business. And then the last is reporting and stakeholder engagement. So something I'm working on right now, annual impact report. This is our fifth year publishing. And then we also work a lot on the employee engagement part of it. We just did Earth Month panel internally, and we focused on a lot of energy efficiency in games. So that was an interesting topic to discuss. Got a lot of engagement, and also do actual customer engagement. If the customer sends us a due diligence questionnaire, then we'll answer. Sometimes we'll join a call with them. So really a lot
Yeah.
of things going on.
Yeah. No, that's amazing. Someone here asked a question, and it's a little unclear, so I'm going to ask you to clarify the asker. But someone wrote, could you talk more about the revenue from sustainability? Before you answer that, Charles, can this person just send a note and say, do you mean revenue tied to companies who have sustainability strategies or revenue from sustainability programs? So just clarify that a little more, and then we'll answer it. While this person clarifies, I want to ask about the product sustainability side of it. I love when companies do things very unique to the industry instead of very generic. I think that is exactly what we need more of because any technology company can buy RECs or honestly even VPPAs. Really, only Unity and three other companies in the world can build something like carbon calculator for the indie gaming industry or can talk about, something we talked about in prep was how you think about product sustainability and how your gaming engine fits into Xbox or fits into PlayStation and helps them reduce their emissions. While we wait for this person to clarify their question, can you talk a little bit about how the product sustainability lens works at Unity and how what you do hyper specific to your industry kind of impacts your relationships with peers like Xbox and PlayStation?
Yeah, so our engine, so just to clarify first to level set, Unity doesn't make games, but we provide the software for game studios to make games. So I think we have a responsibility and a role to play there. Um, we release some updated versions every now and then to our engine. And what I realized was that whatever our software engineers are focusing on to improve performance of our engine actually ties very closely to improving energy efficiency. And that is also driven a lot by just the market changes. So gaming industry, traditionally, a lot of gamers tended to play either on the PC or on the gaming console. But these days, you see the Steam Deck, Nintendo, a lot of the devices are handheld. A lot of people play games on their phones, that are limited by battery life. So it is very closely tied to energy efficiency, how long you can play the game on your device. You don't want to drain entire battery of your phone or be hooked up to a power source all the time. So I think we're just starting to really explore this space, but we're trying to tie back to whatever performance enhancements that we're making to our product. Like, how does that then translate to energy efficiency? And I also want to clarify that it really depends on how the game studio uses our engine to make games. Because depending on what kind of performance adjustments they do then on their end, it may translate to like energy efficiency or it may not. But we're trying to also brainstorm how do we help the game studios make a wiser decision when they want to release new games by giving them some guidance like here are the things that you can do to make your game more energy efficient. And there are ways to do without necessarily reducing the graphic fidelity that a lot of gamers care. So Xbox has sustainability toolkit, and I think PlayStation also released their eco mode. So working closely with the gaming console companies as well has been really helpful.
And how much of that flows through you and your team versus goes directly to the engineers who build these products? Like you don't know, you're not an engineer, you don't know how to build a better gaming engine that's more energy efficient. But are you part of these conversations? Like you are, the conversations go through you, or do you hear about the conversations and your job is to organize and report on the wonderful things you guys are already doing?
It's a little bit of both these days. So it used to be that we're working on a little bit on silos and then suddenly find out, oh, we have convergent points. But now we've identified internally who we can go to in the engine org. So we have two-way conversation these days. So that works a lot better. So while, like you said, I'm not a technical person when it comes to software engineering, so I'm not part of the product development, but definitely having conversations around when they think about performance enhancement releases, like how does this feature translate to making the product more sustainable in some ways. So trying to really get tighter on quantifying the impact of it, those things we can steer the direction. So it almost feels like we have extended sustainability teams across the company. We have that partnership with procurement team, legal. So sustainability team remains very small, but at the same time, you work with almost every business functions in some sense.
Yeah, amazing. Really quickly, I want to just pause and drop two links into the chat. The first one, Beehive was nominated as a climate startup to watch by Trellis, the group behind GreenBiz. There's a big voting contest. We're currently losing, so we're in second place by like five
No.
votes. So come and give us some votes. You can vote twice. If everyone here votes, we'll be in first place. So PSA, that'd be awesome. In exchange for your generous voting, we're somewhere there's a list you can sort at the bottom there. Wanted to show a new product that we just released, open for free for everybody. It's called the Sting Report. You can drop in your company's domain name or 10K, and it maps all the climate risk regulations around the world that you may be subject to, and spits out a very clear report with an AI that you can ask a lot of questions to that explains why you may be subject to any of those. Totally free and very anonymous. You don't have to put in your name or anything. And you could use public information to get a good start there. So, two things: go vote for us and go enjoy the free tool if you'd like. Back to our regularly scheduled programming. I want to go back to a question I was previously asked about how you think about the revenue that is tied to your work and sustainability. You mentioned that you have this program to track that association. Can you talk a little bit about that? Maybe as a part of that, talk about how you all internally track. What does success look like in your program? How do you go tell executives at the board meeting you deliver at every year, we are doing well because, or we are missing our goals because? How do you talk about that from a revenue perspective or anything else?
So, yeah, this is a very loaded question in some ways. So I think it evolved the way we look over the years, but it really started by sales teams just randomly reaching out to sustainability team. Hey, we're trying to get this customer, but this customer wants to know how well we're doing in sustainability. So then our team was randomly brought in and then had to introduce like, oh, we have sustainability program on this and this and that. And then there's a lot of follow-up questions. And then that's part of the customer's due diligence. So without having sustainability in certain sense, we're not able to go into business with some of the customers. I mean, obviously not every customer, but it has been intensifying in a sense what kind of questions they ask. And a lot of the times they might even ask like, what is the emissions associated with using Unity engine? So that kind of question. So for us to be able to answer that has become really important going into business because a lot of large companies, because they also have their sustainability targets, they don't want to just work with any company. They want to work with companies that care about sustainability. So we track now the customer demands that has that level of sustainability demands in terms of revenues, just to see how well we're doing, how are we positioning if one aspect of environmental, social, or governance is being asked more, because that means we need to allocate our internal resources better to enhance those programs. Um, so far, I think environment has the most requests, at least from my purview. So we're focusing on that a lot. And there's definitely some sensitivity to the federal government changing stance on certain social aspects of things too. But we're just generally seeing steady interest of our customers that care about sustainability. So sustainability remains business critical in a sense that we want to run our business responsible, but also meet customer demands because
Yeah,
that's what companies do.
that's what I'm going to do. I spoke yesterday. I had coffee with a chief sustainability officer at a large global industrial company. And this person told me that if you look at their customers who do over $500,000 in business with their company, so not their, I mean, those are all big, but not their smaller customers, but anyone above the 500K mark, they have $2.7 billion in revenue coming from those customers that have sustainability targets. So, of their largest customers, $2.7 billion of revenue comes from companies with science based targets. When you bring that sort of number and that sort of statistic, which is obviously different for everybody in every industry, but when you bring that sort of statistic to an executive and you say, obviously, I need some budget to get this stuff because look at all the programs that our customers have. And you don't want that, you don't want a $500,000 contract to go away or $10 million contract to go away over a VPPA agreement that it could or could not have, or over a improved scope 3 assessment because our products are going to be brought in there. It's just a very powerful number. So there's some industries it's probably easier to track than others.
Mhm.
In B2B, it's certainly obviously a lot easier to track. Certainly if the customers are larger, it's easier to track. But it is really important. How often do you present to executives, and what are those conversations like?
We have an internal ESG steerco meeting on a quarterly basis. But that being said, like that is the official avenue.
Yeah.
But
What
there's
types of people are on there? What types
so yeah,
of what roles?
so most of the C-suite, depending on their availability, will join the call. And a lot of the business org leaders that are director and above will join the call because the nature of sustainability work really kind of extends across the business. So I think it depends a little bit on the topic. Sometimes we'll bring in new people into the discussion. But stemming from that, there's a lot of other discussion to follow up with the business, depending on what topic it is.
Yeah. What does the meeting run like? Do you run the agenda and you talk for an hour and some people ask questions? Do you have different people present on their aspects of the business? What are the nuts and bolts of how you run that meeting?
Yeah, so usually I put together the agenda, but I also have legal present regulatory monitoring side of the things because from risk perspective, that is important for our exec team to understand that. And then also share our progress over the quarter, what we're working on, and what are the roadblocks. And usually that's the point where the leaders can chime in and then um, provide their solutions like you need to talk to this person. So removing those roadblocks and hurdles, it becomes really effective in those
Mhm.
meetings. And then you often find out like who could be your allies in those meetings. So in terms of like really executing the strategy and pushing through the agenda, that avenue of meeting is has become really important. And that rolls, whatever we discuss eventually gets very highly summarized and rolls up to the NomGov committee. That's our part of our board. So we do have a level of ESG governance in that sense.
Yeah. Do you treat this ESG steering committee as a team of rivals? Meaning you bring ideas and you expect them to be debated, you expect to get pushback, and that in the end you get some wins and some things you're not allowed to do, but hopefully everyone's more engaged in the things you do end up doing. Or are you there looking more as a, they're your team of bulldozers? Like Charles thinks this is the right thing for the program. I'm bringing this to the executives. Hey, everyone, I need your help to make this thing done. Like, are you hoping that they clear your path to do these things, or are you hoping that they debate you, push back, you win some, you lose some, but it all gets sharper in the end?
Think it's a little bit of both. And to add to what you said, it's also a really good educational avenue for the exec leaders as well, because while they have really amazing business knowledge in their respective areas, sustainability might be new to some of them. They have different level of understanding when it comes to sustainability. So oftentimes, I give like a 101 on certain things so that they're up to speed and then therefore they can make informed decisions. So it's a little bit of hand holding, but at the same time, getting executive alignment. And that's really important because that it's very hard to bring that group of people in one place at the same time. So decisions can be made in a speedy manner if it's a business critical issue. So I think it really benefits us in a sense that it gives us speed and get alignment together to move on to the next agenda and just get the hurdles removed.
Who's your biggest rival, we'll call it? Who is not 100% bought in on everything that you do, but you're actually grateful for it because you think it improves the quality of your program? Do you have any examples there
Yeah,
of
I think
positive pushback?
I think it's really our CFO because he is a number person, right? So he needs to really understand like the ROI of things if we're trying to do a new initiative. So he tends to ask really great questions, like how does it help with our business? Um, so I think it really helps us tighten our sustainability strategy to be a business case, not just like, oh, it's a nice thing to do. That doesn't really work anymore, in this reality,
It used to when you
unfortunately.
started the job.
Yeah. Yes.
2022 was a year. That was a great year.
Yes, it was. It was a lot easier. I mean, not easier, but in a sense, it was very
Yeah.
impact driven. So there was a
Oh,
lot more storytelling that has changed over the years. So our narrative is very focused on the customer and driving the business value. But I think it's good in a sense that we get really tighter on our strategy and hyper prioritize like what we can do and can't do and focus on the things that we can do and do it really well.
yeah. What are some things that you have said no to doing in the last year? Certain things that you got asked from your team or you saw other peers doing that you thought would be cool, but you decided it is either not right for Unity or just not right now.
We decided not to go with net zero targets. I think that's probably the biggest one, because I saw that it's a little bit wishy-washy. Even from SBTI, they've been changing their guidance year over year. And when I think about like 2040, 2050, do I want to set a rigid target that's evolving year over year? So we're starting with a near-term target that's aligned with SBTI, and we want to achieve that first, and then set net zero target. And hopefully by then the guidance is a little bit clearer. So we decided to do that. And I know like it may not work for every company, but that's what I saw it as pragmatic for Unity.
That's a really good example. I mean, that is an example actually of something that I could have imagined before you got there. They said, yeah, we're net zero by 2030. No problem. Bang, bang. It's 2021. Let's have a nice time. And then you would have to come in there and figure out either how to do that or walk that back or change. But I think it's a good example of a very pragmatic, not unpopular, but maybe like not obvious decision to say, hey, it's not right for us right now.
Yeah, and you see a lot of large companies quietly dropping their net zero targets, so I think that's exactly why.
Yeah, yeah, that's a great one. Let's talk a little about your team. So I think you have a team of three right now, including you. Is that right? Talk about sort of how you divide roles on the team, who's focused on what, and then where you want to grow the team.
Yeah, so there's one person who focuses on ESG, so more on the reporting side of the things and also engaging our customers. So every work that goes into engaging our stakeholders, both internal and external, is mostly led by that person. And then there's environmental sustainability focused person. Um, he mostly focuses on our carbon accounting and also some of the partnership that we work with, Playing for the Planet. So really focusing on energy efficiency, but his role has expanded to kind of also exploring what we can do with water and waste. It's not the areas that we have had a huge focus on. We did what we can in the past, but as the program matures more, we want to get a better handle of that too. So a lot of data work goes behind the person, and then the other person, he oversees both EHS and sustainability. So it's more of a managerial role, but at the same time, I think there are some intersections with EHS part of it. So I think it's interesting dynamic to explore both side of it.
Yeah. So you have somebody focused on the reporting side and somebody focused on some sort of carbon emissions and waste and both data management and reduction. Is that right?
Yeah.
When we talked, you said that your goal is to get somebody who's kind of a data analyst eventually. I think your phrasing was even, I want a data person with some semblance of an interest in sustainability, not the reverse, not a sustainability person will try to figure out what to do with data. If you had your dream hire in that data role, kind of who are they and what are they doing for you? What are they pushing forward?
I think importance of data is becoming even more intensified year over year. And one thing I'm exploring is our AI usage and what would be the environmental impact associated with it. And when I look at our cloud emissions and try really get weedy into it, it's really large data because on the billing consoles of hyperscalers, you can see all sorts of data. So being able to really dissect it in a usable manner, I think is going to be really important for us. And there's a lot of that when it comes to emissions as well. When we try to switch from spend-based data to activity-based data, there's a lot of data that you can parse. Like some part of the data, you might have it all, but some you don't. So you have to kind of mix and match. But eventually, our goal is to transition towards activity data because that is more accurate data. But again, like I myself have ideas, but I can't really execute on the data whiz part of it, managing big data, processing them, and doing it in an efficient manner. I think AI is helpful in a sense. I'm trying to leverage AI more to be able to do that internally. But at the same time, I think having somebody dedicated to do that would be really helpful.
Yeah. Um, let's talk about AI and maybe if you have any examples of your favorite uses of it so far. Where has it played a role in the work that you do?
I've really started exploring. So agentic AI, trying to help with ESG reporting. So like somebody who does copywriting, somebody who does benchmarking, um, and somebody who does initial research. So I have like a couple of things set up. And then whenever there's a question, I think the most recent use case was I had to look at our financial peer companies and where they are in terms of impact reporting. So having those set out already, and then have the AI scrape through what reports they have and what are they reporting on if they have SBTI targets. So like obviously like, you need to kind of like set up the filters, but being able to do that like in a table in a simple manner quickly without having to go through like each and every company's websites. So I think those are really
And
useful.
are you doing this in like one of the LLMs? You're doing this inside of Claude or inside of Gemini or something? Or are you doing this inside of a dedicated piece of software that has AI enabled inside of it? Where are you doing this work?
So at Unity, we're encouraged to use all the LLMs that are available to us. So we mostly use it through our company authorized LLMs that we are able to use it. We have like a SSO
Hmm.
access and all of those. So we're given this tools, and I think there's also a lot of use cases available to us. So whenever I have time, I will try to like read them and try to make use of those as much as possible. And I think it's also evolving really fast. So I see LLM models getting updated all the time, which is
Hmm.
also cool. But I think I'm fortunate in a sense that we use multiple kind of LLMs. So I definitely
Hmm.
see some strengths and weaknesses when I repeatedly use them. Also, I tend to prefer Claude for
Hmm.
writing. And for general things, I think ChatGPT does a great job.
Yeah. How do you think about using? I think a lot of buying patterns have shifted across software in general, but certainly in sustainability. And I think more than ever, um, chief information security officers or procurement officers are saying, can you build versus do you need to buy? A couple years ago, it was obvious if you have to buy something, maybe it's consultant, maybe it's software, you figure it out. But now, do you buy consultant, do you buy software, or do you just try to do it yourself with AI? How do you think about what you do want to just do with AI? You gave benchmarking an example. Do you no longer need any benchmarking software and that is totally dead to you and you'll never answer a call there? Or do you think it's about, well, if you can do it much better in some way, you'll still consider buying? Like, how do you think about the types of software services that you need now that you are able to do so much with AI?
I think a lot of the first pass can be done with AI, but at the same time, being able to do thorough QC of the work, um, as an in-house sustainability person, I think it's still important to be able to really be able to trust what AI turns out. And I think you have to always work with a little bit of grain of salt because when I sometimes do random legal regulatory searches, AI is not able to pull most recent updated regulations in some ways. So I always make sure that AI shares all of the sources and go through them myself at the end of what it turns out, but it's not always accurate. So I think it can do a lot of the initial work that you probably traditionally kind of relied on external consultants as a first pass. But at the same time, I think when you think about most more strategic work, probably the consultants are also using AI on their back end. But to be presentable and actually usable, I think you would at the end need some level of human touches. So
Mhm.
I think what I'm trying to say is that I think the scope of consultant work might be slightly reduced, but at the same time, I think it doesn't mean that their role completely diminishes. They would then use their level of knowledge and strategic um, skills to refocus what they would have otherwise spent on like labor-intensive hours of data meddling and stuff. You can have AI do all of that and then focus more on strategic piece, which would be even better because it's gonna be a higher quality. So that is my hope to see working with more consultants and is actually what I'm hearing because a lot of the big four consulting firms, they all use AI these days too. So I hope that it goes in that direction, and that's what I hope to see. I don't know
Yeah.
what it means for us in terms of like the consulting prices necessarily. That's what I'm curious about as a user, but at the same time, I think this space is changing really fast.
Yeah. I always, my line is always nobody minds paying a lot for something. They
Mhm.
just mind overpaying,
Right.
meaning you don't, if there's value there, you're happy to pay a big number for it. So if consultants raise their prices but give you 40x the value because they will do so much more with AI, that's a good thing. If prices are raising but value is going down and then you're overpaying, that is a problematic thing. So I think consultants or service providers or software companies who are able to give 10x the value for 2x the price is a very positive thing for everybody. And you win, they win. It's positive. But if you're giving 1x the value for 2x the price, then you're in a lot of trouble. Um,
Yeah.
we're going to go to the last little question here. And again, chat's open so anyone can ask anything. But I just posted the next four webinars we do. We do this pretty much every Thursday on the 14th. I'm skipping next week because I'm traveling. But we're doing a Beehive product training on the 14th. Then we're interviewing Angela Facchetti from Russell Reynolds, their sustainability manager. And then the team at CNOT talking about carbon markets. So if you're buying offsets, that is a great place for you to kind of learn what's going on. And then Michaela Byfield, who is the sustainability manager at Lyft. Those are the next four interviews. So really, really awesome events. I've also posted, we have a free risk postcard that we send out. So if you want to get a basically map of the exposure of your corporate headquarters to any disaster, it's a cool little physical postcard that we send you for free. So check it out. Last question, Simone, before we wrap this up. But tell me about your goals for this year. I know you have an impact report coming out. I know we are almost halfway through the year. But if you look back on 2026, when it's January 27, you say this was a great year. What do you think are some of the things that you accomplished?
I think really just focusing on navigating the AI piece is going to be challenging but also rewarding. There's not really fixed methodologies to users of AI like us how to calculate the environmental impacts of it, and it's very much Wild West, at least the way I see it. So figuring that out. And then the next piece comes, then how do we better manage it? And also internally, there's many ways everybody can use AI, but how can you then efficiently have the employees use AI so that you're not, misusing in some ways? Because I think there are various examples of like if you're searching for image, if you're searching for certain things, there's more energy efficient models that's better suited for certain types of task. So getting tighter on that and giving employees resources on that, I think would be an interesting one. And
Yeah, amazing.
well, yeah.
Awesome. On that note, I just posted just to give some love to Sophia Gluck, mutual friend at Okta. They just today put out a how Okta is measuring the emissions from AI, and they put out a guide for that. So I just posted that on the chat. So if anyone's challenged with those issues, which everybody is, that is at least one thing that came out a couple days ago. It came out, and they just posted about it. So hopefully, a helpful resource. Charles, thank you so much. This has been a wonderful hour. I really, really appreciate you teaching us everything. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Adriel, for having me.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you, everyone. Hope to see you soon. Bye.